Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile video. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Scourge League mechanics, how to find bosses, what the f you're gonna krangle in the Crucible, and how to just generally behave across the board with the new league mechanic. I'm just gonna dive into it straight away and show you guys how to find the bosses, because a lot of people have been asking me about this. So as you can see in this gameplay footage, basically we have some footage provided by community members. The one you're watching here is from iLanky. And what you're watching is basically him going through the map areas, and he is spotting a very noticeable purple explosion. It's basically a purple pustule, as you can see here, which grows and then explodes in front of him. And these are available all over the map. And when you see these, it will actually indicate that you are indeed watching or inside a map where you can encounter a boss. In this case, the boss is the Gore boss. Now, what that means is that if you know that there is a boss, you just need to find him. If you are somewhat close to him, he will be showing up on the mini-map as well. So the purple pustules exploding is one way of seeing it. The other way of catching a boss is to see small lightning strikes happening around you on the ground. They're yellow. Very hard to tell if you can spot them or not. I haven't encountered it myself. I saw a couple of recordings, but nothing that really was good to use in the video. So if you see some yellow lightning strikes on the ground, that'll indicate that the lightning boss is in the map. We had some problems with the Katash or Katosh or whatever his face is, the other boss, which is the fire one. There were two indicators that we encountered numerous times during the maps that actually had him. I fought this boss 3 times myself. One of the indicators is a small meteors flying from the sky, which is a black little trail color of smoke, if you will, following down on the ground. The other indicator that was present in all of these maps where the boss was actually the small fire things on the ground, like small dots on the ground of fire, patches, if you will. I'm not certain or 100% on that one specifically, but the lightning strikes and the purple pustules are actually confirmed to 100% be the case when it comes to the boss spawns. And so far, the meteors and the fire seems to either be connected to both be the case, and if you only see one of them, I would love some confirmation, because I've only encountered maps where both of them have been visible, displaying that indeed there is a boss. Now that you know how to summon a boss, we're going to be talking about the actual mechanic, how to behave and what to do with it, and how you're going to basically operate as you're playing the game. So the Scourge mechanic allows you to generate juice, if you will, or Scourge juice as we call it, that fills up this bar here on the right hand side. This bar can be filled up halfway, which will initiate the possibility for you to start the Shadow Realm, if you will, at one point. And if you get it all the way up, it will last longer. When you click the key V, which is the League key, or presses this little crucible down here, you will jump into the Scourge Realm and fight Scourge monsters and start getting a ramping debuff and stacking effect over here, which I'll talk about first. However, you'll be leaving like a remnant of yourself, and once you click the button again or the juice goes down to 0, you'll be teleported back to where you were, and then having the bar being able to be started again with a small couple seconds cooldown. Now outside of this, you're going to be able to jump back and forth, and since you're teleported back, your focus will then be to basically clear a map. So I'm going to show you in this map that I've already cleared that, for example, if you come from the start here and you move out to the right side and come this way, and you pop the Scourge juice, you want to run forward. You never want to run backwards. You run forward and clear all of this, and when the juice is over or you teleport back, you'll actually be teleported back to where you started it. This means that you do not want to loot anything in your pathway to where you went, because you're going to have to clear the normal monsters, which is in the normal map or area that you're in, all the way there anyways, and then you can actually loot it without being stressful with the time needed to work on your juice bar. The other thing that's going to happen is that the more time you spend in the Scourge Realm, the more stacks of this exposed to corruption you get. Now, this allows you to have perks and downsides, both pros and cons to this. First one is the Scourge monster deals 1% more damage, which is a multiplicative modifier to you with both hits and ailments. but it also gives you 1% more quantity of slain monsters on Scourge, as well as rarity, and 0.5% more corruption absorbed by items in your blood crucible, which I'll talk about last in this video. So basically you get a lot more quantity and rarity, but you also take a ton more damage. This becomes very scary versus very specific mechanics, such as the global boss duels exploding. Certain enemies from the Scourge mechanic has some stupid amount of damage, like Pale Angels at a tier 16 map has a high-end damage of their lightning with 22,000 before they're modded. That's a white Pale Angel, not a rare, not a blue, unmodded map, can still one-shot the most tankiest build in the game. So it's absolutely disgusting when you ramp up exposed to corruption. So be very careful with ramping this up too highly. You might want to find a balance where you're going to stop going into the form when this happens. So when this happens and you find a boss that I mentioned in the start of this video, you actually could be close to the boss. So I'm going to summon some totems here to illustrate this. You can probably see it in the videos earlier as well. So if the boss is here where the totems are, if you stand at this range towards the totems, you are actually unable to stay there forever, because the further away from the boss you are, you will eventually reach a breaking point where the juice just continues to decrease as if you were normally clearing. However, if you're closer to the boss, in this case my totems, the juice actually stops from decreasing. This is to allow people to have a slower build or lower boss DPS to actually kill a boss. The only downside with this is obviously if you're playing a squishy build or a ranged character that don't necessarily want to be in melee range of the actual boss, but it is a niche and nice mechanic allowing you to actually stop the juice from decreasing to give you the time to kill the boss, even if you are forced essentially to be rather close to the boss. Outside of this, we're going to talk about the corruptions. First off, we're going to talk about the skills. You have a bunch of skill trees here. A lot of questions about this is which nodes should you take? The answer is whatever you want. And the reason for this is two things. First off, you will, after farming up enough levels, actually be able to spec every single tree here. So it's more about which ones you want to go with first, not which ones should you discard, because you're going to get all of them eventually. So with that said, the ones you should pick up are the ones that you're actually doing something with. So the first ones is jewelries, armors, or weapons and quivers. So normally, if you are expecting or planning to do some juicing with the weapons, you should pick up the weapons one. I plan to work on my Darkness and Throne belts, so I knew I was going to pick this one up early. So I picked up the armor. Doesn't really matter. After a certain amount of points, you're able to then get to the next one. Obviously, you want to have the alternate history, which allows you to now transform unique items. You have one to increase the chance of getting a socket, as well as one to increasing the chance of adding links. Now, this is something I used a lot to help out with the off chance of hitting a six link item, for example. And then we have the Golden Blood, which gives transforming to add an explicit modifier to magic or rare. This was very useful when I was trying to gear up my character in the early stage of mappings, for example. 10% chance to grant transforming beneficial modifier one tier higher on equipment was pretty nice. Not really the best, but you know, it's okay, right? So all of these modifiers are pretty decent. You get an extra slot if you're gonna juice a lot. Right now, I'm only having one belt in, so I don't really have use of this at all. Then you have the maps that you can get. Now, first off, when you start playing the maps, the very first map you do, you will drop a quest item, if you will, similar to back in Heist League. You will then hand this into the NPC of the Scourge League, which will allow you to open up this slot here, the first map transformation. I haven't done this too much yet. Basically, you're going to get the availability to transform your maps to the point where you have different types of modifiers affecting the way the Scourge mechanic works, which is pretty cool. I would recommend doing this on a pre-roll rare map, so you have a map that you're already expecting to run with map modifiers you're able to handle, and then go in and Scourge it to allow you to drop more of the tainted currencies, and also having a better efficiency of the actual map and more juice out of it. So this tree here, the Restless Nightmares, allows you to Scourge two maps at the same time. Other nodes in here allows you to have maps absorb more corruption, for example, to just consistently adding more juice to these maps to faster corrupt them. The tiers of corruptions are 3 tiers. The first tier goes very quickly for most items to actually reach, and then after you've corrupted it, there's an item level restriction that I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it's like 45 item level, I believe it was, to allow a second tier corruption. And I think the next item level was 58 or 60. could have been 65, where you can actually Scourge the item 3 times. This means that when you're looking at the unique items, make sure the item level is a bit higher than that to make sure that you can Scourge it 3 times if that's what you're looking for. And that allows you to go for 3 times. If you have Scourged the item 3 times, you are unable to continue to Scourge it. Every time you Scourge it, you will be replacing the Scourge implicit modifiers, which in this case is 1 beneficial and 1 detrimental modifier. And the ones you're looking at right now has reduced flask charges gained, but increased flask mana recover rate, which is fucking dog shit. But that's why we're going to Scourge it 1 more time. So that's basically how it works. So which items should you Scourge, and what are you looking to do? One of my recommendations, and that's basically with what a lot of people have been getting hyped about, which we talked about on this stream, or my stream on my YouTube channel, before the league released, when they introduced the Tainted Fusing Orb, was to get a corrupted 6-link through using Tainted Fusing Orbs. Now, this trick involved using a normal corruption orb by using a Vol Orb. I didn't do that at all. Instead, I shoved my chess piece into the KRANGLE because it doesn't risk bricking the item entirely, and instead I could use a pretty decent chess piece that I purchased and bench crafted, and then use the KRANGLE, and I was going to KRANGLE it till at any point I didn't get any detrimental modifier that would be bad for me to handle. In my case, I got intelligence requirement with some extra life regen, which is perfectly fine for this build to handle. So I just took that one and used the fusings, or Tainted Fusing Orbs. And the generic strategy there is actually pretty simple. I'll show you here in my hideout real quick. Basically, what you want to do is make sure the item is 4 links and 2 links first. That's the first 4 links, or the bottom 4 links, and the other last socket should be linked. Then you use a Tainted Orb of Fusing, which will either remove or add a link to the item. If your item turns in to be less than 4 links, what you would have to do is head to your crafting bench, put it in here, and then use the 4 links. Now there, 4 links craft. On a corrupted item, this would cost 5 Orb of Fusings, but also 5 Vol Orbs to get the 4 links back, and then use another Orb of Fusing, and you just rinse and repeat the process till you have a 6-link chess piece. So that is the strategy of that process. Other than that, my biggest tip when it comes to Scourge League, and if you should interact with it early on, is actually very straightforward. I encountered major problems with sorting my sockets, colors, and links because I used Scourged items a lot during leveling. I think during leveling, you should probably look into using Scourged items for very specific pieces, like maybe your weapon for the builds, utilizing that. And then the rest of your items should be avoided to use Scourge on as a craft, because you can shove in a white item in your crucible, and when it transforms, it will turn it into a rare item. Problem with this is obviously the sockets and links and colors, but also the fact that you cannot benchcraft the item. This means that you should essentially always prioritize crafting a weapon or item that you want to use, put the correct colors, correct links, as well as benchcraft so you know what you're getting, and the Scourge will only be like a finalization of the item itself to add the actual implicit modifiers. And that's basically all I have to say when it comes to the league mechanic. I hope you guys are enjoying the league itself. I will say this though, my TLDR enjoyment of the league is that the risks of doing the Scourge mechanic is insanely high. I'm playing a ridiculously tanky build, and I'm still being able to get one-shot quite frequently versus the higher end content of Scourge, which might be a little bit overkill, but I do like what is a huge amount of risk. The problem is that the reward does not match the risk involved. So hopefully we'll see some buffs to the Scourge mechanic, but at least this guide is here to help you understand the mechanics and what to do and how to plan your characters ahead of time. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, boys, stay safe, keep rocking.